Wholistic Vitality Energy Healing. www.holistic-vitality.com. You can spend a lifetime trying to forget a few minutes of your childhood, but it is easier to build up a child than it is to repair an adult.
My name is Matt, and this is my first Reiki session with Nicole. I was brought here, I don't know, probably by myself, not even really realizing I needed it. And there was a lot of chaos and turmoil in my life. Opportunity presented itself to meet Nicole, and I hesitantly went through with it. And I'm grateful that I did. After having the session, there's definitely a lot of me. I feel it's been shifted and is more properly placed now.
And then, what do you remember from your session?
Like the first difference was in just putting yourself into that like vast, that space,
Mm-hmm.
And kind of being asked to like interact with almost nothingness, to like be in nothingness, and then, you know, to speak with the entities, you know, those around me.
And do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you recall from that?
Well, even it was like kind of, you know, who are these people? You know, who are they to you? With the question, you know, what do they look like and everything. All of them were faceless. You know, everyone that was standing around was faceless.
It's interesting.
And there was no dialogue whatsoever. Initially, it was kind of me by myself, but I mean, it didn't take very long at all for my son, you know, my little 5-year-old boy, to be sitting right next to me.
Okay.
And there was no dialogue from him either.
Okay.
He was kind of just like giggling and having a good time and kind of experiencing it with me. So
That's pretty cool. I've had somebody talk about their dog was present with them in that part. Even Emily, from her videos, she said the same thing, that the angels or guardians that she experienced were all faceless and there was no dialogue either.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. That is pretty common throughout with everybody's experience of what they remember. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it was kind of keyed in to like go to a place of, you know, peace, calm, and that void.
Yeah.
Anybody that knows me in real life knows I can talk somebody's ear off. I guess seriously, bore somebody to sleep talking to them. And so I think that maybe that's what I was trying to tell myself, is to kind of quiet down a bit. You know, not that communication's a bad thing, but I think that maybe in retrospect, there's been such a disconnect with people in my life, and that communication really, being really distant from my family and everything, like communication is kind of my one way of having any kind of a relationship, and so like I tend to overdo it and talk way too much. So
To overcompensate.
yeah, and so like the lack of dialogue at all, I thought was really peaceful. It was really calming, different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about now the inner child work? I know that one seemed to be a pretty powerful one on my end for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recall from that?
Just from stress and, you know, struggling with letting go of things from my childhood. It's always kind of just been presented to me as let it go. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if I was able to just let it go, I would have by now.
Yeah.
So going through it and actually seeing myself as that little kid, you know, and this is like the way that, like, I think it touched me, because, you know, I see little kids and like I'm always drawn to them, you know what I'm saying, and you always want to see the best for little kids and everything. And since I was actually kind of put into that position to see myself beside myself as like a 7-year-old little boy. I felt terrified for him, and that's when I started crying. And that's, I think, it finally made sense, you know, that you have to take care of yourself, because there was almost like a paternal instinct there that, you know, you have to take care of this little boy too.
Because
you
you realize, because you realize all kids deserve unconditional love, support, all their needs to be met. And so it's easier to empathize for somebody that you feel is helpless, but difficult to do when you see yourself as that helpless person. It's easy to avoid you. And so now it's kind of like seeing you as that child and realizing, I do need that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. And, you know, I'm 39 years old, and so I've been dealing with a lot of this stuff, you know, when there was the divorce when I was a kid. That pretty much sparked my first counseling session at school, and I've been seeing counselors, and I mean, probably for 29 years on and off. So, maybe even longer than that, maybe 30. But today, just in that, just having it presented that way, of stepping outside of myself, separating myself from myself, and seeing myself as that terrified, like abandoned kid. You know, I just felt alone and afraid, like the two worst things. That brought back, and it came full circle finally for the first time in 3 decades. You know, it makes sense of like that kind of paternal protection, and it's like, that's what I should be feeling for myself. So it finally made sense. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
And anything else that you remember, or any other chakras that may have stood out to you?
I don't know. The yellow one, I think, was the strongest, definitely. And going into the crown, like just initiating, getting rid of separating myself from what things are holding me back. That was also a very good one.
The emotional one?
Or just the initialization, like the very start of everything.
So up here?
Yeah.
So reaching higher levels.
Yeah.
Cool. We are product of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners of it. So be the person you needed when you were younger. Let's raise children who won't have to recover from their childhoods.